who do I know that knows this person, that knows that person, that knows, Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
So at the time, Teddy Riley was working on Michael Jackson.
Okay.
And it just so happened Kenny Quiller is a guy that I knew from North Carolina that happened to be Teddy Riley's assistant. So I sent the record to him. He gave it to Teddy, and 2 weeks later, Michael Jackson is like standing in my face, and we're talking about the record.
What is good, guys? It's your boy Corey.
It's your boy John.
And welcome back to the Artistry Drop, where we feature stories from today's rising stars. Guys, I'm definitely excited for our guest today. Our guest today is a Grammy Award-winning multi-platinum record producer and recording artist who has produced records for Michael Jackson, Beyoncé, Lil Kim, Notorious B.I.G, Mace, Will Smith, Boyz II Men, Nas, Casey and JoJo, and Anthony Hamilton. He is now the recording artist Billie Lennox from Greensboro, North Carolina. Please welcome Andreao, Fanatic, Heard. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on, Fanatic.
No doubt.
Say
Glad
that.
to be here. Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you again. Definitely excited to have you on. I know we looked you up on YouTube quite a bit. You've done a lot of interviews. Like, is this your first type of podcast though?
I've done some podcasts, but I really was attracted to you guys' podcast because it's a very professional setup. I like the content. I like the way your production is. So I was just impressed. So I was just like, yeah, let me be a part of this.
Appreciate it. No, definitely. Excited to learn more about your story and everything. Before we do, let's go ahead and get into the drink of the day.
So this is a Shirley Temple. It's a little spin-off of your classic Shirley Temple because I mixed some orange juice as well as some ginger ale and some grenadine, and then topped it off with lime juice, and then garnished it with a little cherry. So
nice. I mean, Fanatic said it was already good, so
he's already almost done with it. Come on.
Nice.
Cheers.
Get a taste.
Good Shirley there.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spiked one is good. Yeah, the spiked one is good. I like that. We might have to make that more often too.
Hey, I'm here.
Yeah, no, let's do it. All right, guys, let's get into learning a little bit more about Fanatic. So you're originally from Greensboro.
Yes.
Were you still, or are you still living out there? And do you frequently travel to LA?
Nah, I moved to New York first. I was there for like 12 years, and then I came to LA for 7 years.
Okay, got you.
So, but I go back and forth because Greensboro is home. My family's still out there. A lot of great artists out there that I collaborate with as well. But LA is kind of like this place where you got to be to really make it happen. So I love it here.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
No, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Where does the Fanatic in your name come from?
Just my obsession with anything that I'm into, whether it be music, fashion, film, whatever it is. I just become a fanatic about it. And I had that name and didn't realize that that's what really I was. Like my obsession for anything that I'm really passionate about, I become a fanatic. So that's how I got that name.
So did that start way back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was always. It used to be the Rhythm Fanatic because I was the producer in this hip hop band that I was in, and I did all the beats.
Yeah.
And so I was just I was the Rhythm Fanatic, and then it just became Fanatic.
That's dope.
Okay.
Yeah, that's dope. So we're gonna go a little bit back now, get to know how did you get into music originally?
So I was in a hip hop group when I was in high school. Called the Busy Boys, and then I went to music school at the Art Institute of Atlanta.
Okay.
And I learned audio engineering, and then once I came out of there, I started producing. I didn't even realize I was producing at the time. I was just the guy in the band that was, arranging and coming up with the production on it, because most people were just freestyling over beats during that time.
Yeah. Okay.
But our group that we were in, we had actual songs. So when we would perform, we would actually have 3 or 4 songs that we would perform, where everybody else was just freestyling over records.
Yeah.
And once I got to music school, I realized what I was doing was actually producing and didn't even know it at the time.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it.
That's crazy. So you went to the Art Institute.
Yeah.
I also went to the Art Institute of Seattle.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, how was your experience there? Like, did you enjoy it, or?
It was at the time. I was excited to be in Atlanta because Atlanta was booming at the time. The music scene was booming out there. But I didn't really spend a whole lot of time. I didn't feel like we got enough time as far as like hands-on, really messing with the equipment and using the equipment on a regular basis. But I made a lot of contacts. My passion for music grew because I was seeing my peers like actually get into the music business and doing things. So it was a great experience. First time away from home. So it was good for me, and it just gave me the confidence that I could actually do music professionally. You know, at that point. And my mom was like, "You gotta go to school." So I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go to music school. So you know, so it was great, and I met a lot of people there, so it was really good.
No, that's dope.
That's dope.
Yeah, because you know, originally, you know, I was actually producing music a long time ago before I got into like filmmaking and stuff. This is like 2000. I want to say maybe 2004. I started, you know, making beats using Fruity Loops and, you know, stuff like that just for fun. And we would have these battles in high school. Like, you know, I'd have like my friend group or my boy, he's a rapper. And then I ended up finding out about another producer in school as well that was producing. So it's like we were going back at it, back and forth and stuff. And then at that time, I was like, okay, he's hard. I need to go harder. So I was like, I need to go to school for this shit, you know? So then that's at the point where, you know, I found out about the Art Institute. And, you know, I went on a tour the first time around. And, you know, after I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is dope. And then, you know, I ended up finding another passion or, you know, like now my career, you know, in filmmaking. And that's when I ended up, you know, going back to the Seattle Art Institute or Art Institute of Seattle and, you know, going around and, you know, it was a cool experience. You know, Art Institute, you know, like they did have hands-on, and I don't know if you've heard a lot about Art Institute recently, but you know they closed down because
Well, maybe like a couple years ago, they had reached out to me to go on a tour to a bunch of these art institutes around the country and to help them with their to get people to come and get their get people to basically go to the school. And so, but it ended up folding. A bunch of them ended up folding and then shut down. But a lot of people came through there when I was there. Jermaine Dupri was there. Speech from Arrested Development. Dallas Austin was there. LaFace had just taken off. So a lot of people had come through that school. And I get the letters from the school, or I used to get the letters from the school where they would alumni that went there that went on to do greater things and whatnot. So it was great for a lot of people. But just being in a place where you're seeing people that you're cool with actually get opportunities and start pursuing their career, I think that really just inspired me that you could do this. And you know, because in Greensboro, like nobody was like really doing it at a high level. And so to, you know, see that for the first time, it just makes you feel like, well, if he can do it, then I can do it.
It's crazy that you say like Jermaine Dupri and all them went to, you know, the Art Institute, you know, like, you know, when I was going to school, you know, they do show alumni, you know, that have graduated, not just out of Seattle, but just in general, you know, and I've never actually heard about that until you mentioned that, and that's crazy to me now, you know, because Art Institute, I would say, is definitely a smaller you know, school, and you know, the fact that people that big are coming out of there.
Well, now I don't know if they graduated, but I know that, I know that they were there. They were always over there.
But that's still dope, you know, like you know, coming from a smaller school that. You know, I know a lot of people had, you know, issues with it because I would say I had issues with them as well because the thing is, like, when I went in for filmmaking, they would bring in new teachers almost every week, and that shit was getting tiring. You know, so it's like one teacher would know what he's talking about. Maybe a couple weeks later, they bring in a teacher that doesn't know what he's talking about, and we're like, what are we doing here? Like, we're not learning anything, like, you know, about filmmaking and stuff like that. They'll majority of the time they'll just have us watching films and stuff like that, and not really having us, you know, teach anything. But I will definitely say, you know, in the filmmaking part, because you know everything is connected. You know, as far as music, as music production it goes as well. So I ended up having to take music production anyways to learn about sound and audio and the filmmaking process. So during that time, you know, I actually had a lot of fun doing the music production part because we were in the studio, you know, the built-in studio that they had there. They were letting us use the mixers and everything, and I was like, this is a cool experience, you know. So,
and it's you like you said, it's all connected. And I would suggest anybody, artists, like if you're an artist, you should learn filmmaking because for me, I was always hiring people to shoot music videos for me, and they never really got the vision. They never got it right. And so I learned how to shoot. I learned how to edit, all of those things. So now, you know, I can make the music. I can shoot the videos.
That's dope that you bring that up, because now that we do music videos, we've been doing it for a while now. And moving down to LA, we've been really selective of like who we work with, because we're not just somebody who you hire just to collect a check. Because we want to like actually make music videos that are iconic and not like recycled. So we work with the artists from the ground up. We would have a meeting, we talk, and it's a longer process, but the outcome at the end is way more better when we connect with the artists.
No. You know, it's so crazy that you say that, because real film directors, before they take on a film, they spend some time with that actor, just hanging out with that actor, getting to know the actor and whatnot before they decide whether or not they want to work with them to actually shoot the film. And I'm the same way as a producer. When I work with artists, I like to hang out with the artists, find out what they're into, see what their musical taste is, see if we have things in common versus just getting paid to go in the studio and just work with somebody and there's no chemistry. You know, because it's all a collaboration between you and the artist. So I always feel like it's important that we establish a rapport and get cool. I know your strengths and your weaknesses, because my job is to put you in the best position to show the best version of you.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's how we reflect with filmmaking too. Like we are here for the artist. Our artist sets the foundation, and we're here to elevate that foundation. You know, and make it to the best to our ability. And it goes both ways. So I definitely hear your outlook when it comes to producing. Yes, the same way.
And you know, that's one thing I've always said too, is like, you know, for us as, you know, the filmmaking side is building a relationship with a person or, you know, the artist is very important, because it's like, if you do just hire somebody to shoot your videos, it's like, you guys might not connect at all when it comes to filming. But if you guys start connecting way beforehand and you guys understand each other, you know, be friends with each other, the process is going to be so much smoother. You know, and that's what it's been like for us recently. You know, it's like with some of the recent artists that we've worked with, you know, we've honestly just been trying to be cool and be friends and stuff, you know, and it's not always about, you know, the business side. It's also about getting to know the person as a person, you know, and them becoming friends. And that's where things are going to be so much smoother on set. And so I totally agree with what you're saying.
And that video that you're shooting is like your business card. So, so it's so important that, you know, you're putting your best product out there. The artist is somebody that you believe in. You guys share the same vision, because also when I've shot so many videos and I work with a lot of different directors, and they usually end up becoming DPs versus directors. And so I just recently connected with a guy, Andrew Gibson, who shot my last video. Very easy to work with, understand signature. Because there's a million videos out there.
There is.
You're on YouTube and you're competing against talking dogs and babies and all these different things. So you got about 30 seconds to grab their attention and pull them in. And so it's important for me to work with directors that have a signature that, you know, in the same way that Hype Williams has a signature, all these different directors have a signature that pulls you in. So I only work with film people that understand how important that is in creating signature. You know?
No, exactly. And, you know, like kind of what he mentioned is, you know, we go through a whole process. Like, I mean, I feel like we've created a signature, you know, as, you know, director, assistant director. And like I said, it's not just, I would say, a director's signature. It's also, we get that signature from the collaboration of the artist. So it's like, you know, we'll think of something on set like, ooh, this might look so super dope. And, you know, and then I might end up using that specific shot like every single time. And I feel like every single time I shoot with a new artist, I find a different way to shoot it. So it's like I keep creating like new signatures and new signatures, and it just keeps,
because also what come with signatures is originality. Which is not really that common nowadays, because everything is trending. They're just copying what has already been done. But making it your own and doing it in a different way is what has your signature.
Yeah,
and
it makes people
original.
want to come to you for that signature thing that you do, whether it's lighting, whether it's in the edit, you know, whatever it is, a certain shot. You know how Spike Lee has the shot where they're sitting, that particular thing. So it just depends on what it is that you create in your signature that makes people want to come to you for that specific thing.
Exactly. You know? And that's, you know, that's why, like, I'm also still trying to build my team, you know, my arsenal of people. You know, like right now I got my, you know, my assistant director. I got my girlfriend. My girlfriend's a fashion designer. So, you know, she's been helping, you know, design costumes for some of the artists we've been working with. But definitely one thing I do want to get, because I'm not the best at lighting, is a DP. Like a DP is there to, you know, configure the lighting. And,
it's important.
It is. And lighting is definitely important. And that's something I'm not the best at. And, you know, going back to school, you know, going back to the Art Institute issue, like lighting, I wouldn't say they taught us a lot about lighting, but they taught us the basics. You know, they didn't teach us everything, I would say. But even if they, you know, what they did teach us, it helped me learn basic lighting. But I feel like, you know, I'm not there where I'm like, I'm a professional DP and I can light a scene and stuff like that.
It takes an art to it. I was watching I was at some restaurant and I was watching a old black and white film and I was just looking at the lighting techniques that they were using back then and whatnot. So, but what you were saying about building your team, it's so important. That takes a long time and a long process to find your team of people that you guys share, you know, like-minded
same creative ideas.
And when you do that, that's when you start trusting your team, whereas you're shooting and you're just passing the ball to your editor because he knows what type of cuts you like and everything like that. And so it takes a while to build that up. So that's dope that you guys have come together this long and have figured out how you guys can work together and trust each other.
I appreciate that. And like I said, we definitely still are in the process, and it definitely is hard because there's so many DPs and you know, cinematographers out here in LA. But it's, you know, also just networking, making those connections and trying to find the right people.
Yeah, because even though if they're talented, you know, their personality might not mix with us. Also, we find it hard to find people who are reliable too.
That is, you know, I'd say that's the most important thing. Like, especially being here in LA, that is one of the, I mean, you can talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, like, I mean, we've been through so many people, you know, trying to bring them onto the production team, testing them out, and you know, they're late to the shoot, they forget things, and we're like, man, we're professional. We plan everything beforehand. We expect you to be not only on time, but maybe a little bit early. So we're testing them out, you know, and although their personality meshes well with us, you know, that professionalism, you know, doesn't meet our expectations. And, you know, we had to break it to them and be like, hey, you know, I think we can only be friends. Like,
no, that's difficult to,
it is.
Because even as a producer, being able to understand how to cater to different personalities, it takes a little bit of humility. You have to understand how to give and take in terms of getting your ideas off, what you're still giving the artist room to do their thing. So you got to pick and choose your battles. And you're right, like I tried to shoot a video, this last video I'm working on, I tried to shoot that here in LA. That's the first time I tried to shoot something in LA. And it's very, very difficult to get people on board because everybody's doing something out here. So it's very hard to get people on board to be reliable. I had directors that wanted to do it. But just the communication, I feel like when you're shooting
things.
When you're shooting something, there should be communication almost every day as you're getting closer to your actual shoot day.
Of course.
And I had directors that, you know, they just weren't in communication, and like a couple of days for the shoot, they were like, "Yeah, let's go." And I was like, "We haven't even been talking about this. This is like something you have to work on every single day till you get to that." So I ended up shooting it in North Carolina versus shooting it out here. So I'm still trying to find my tribe out here that are reliable, that I can shoot with, that I can trust. But it is a process out here because so many people are doing it. You know?
And we definitely feel the same way when it comes to artists. You know, we've gone through that same thing. We're like, we're trying to get that communication going from the beginning, and we're checking up on them every so often. Hey, we need this, we need that. What do you think about this? Because we're building up to the shoot. Here's the shot list. What do you think about that?
Right.
And sometimes no communication.
Yeah. Pre-production is so important.
It is
for sure.
Very important. And that's one of the things that we literally. So in Seattle, when we were living back home, we weren't necessarily doing a lot of pre-production, because also I hadn't even finished or graduated from film school at the time yet, so I was still learning a lot about the business side of things, and the most important part about being in the film industry. So it was like, when an artist hits us up, let's shoot this music video, and stuff like that.
Right.
We'll go ahead and do it, and just with barely any plan, no shot list, just kind of ideas, But when we do it, if we did have a shot list, it was just words,
right?
Like over the shoulder, or something like that. But then I feel like once I graduated from high school, or not, sorry, film school, it was such a different vibe for me. It was like I learned so much going to film school, and once we came down here, literally the year I graduated from film school, we both moved down here.
Okay,
so it was like, okay, let's take this opportunity. I learned so much and stuff like that. Let's start building, our networks and stuff like that. Well, of course, COVID happened within a few more months because we moved down here at the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
Near the end of the year, But honestly, I feel like that also gave us, during COVID, it gave us so much time to figure out things, figure things out and how to work around, with artists and stuff like that. So now it's like we have this really great process of, pre-production, and, the last few videos we've shot, smooth as hell. It's so smooth.
That's so important. Pre-production is so important because when you get there on the day to do the shoot, everything has got to work like clockwork. You're on a schedule.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the shots, it's hard to get people back together for pickup shots and things like that. So you want to get it all.
So an issue that we ran into on one of our videos. So our process usually is treatment first, right?
Right.
So we come up with the treatment, the whole concept, what the colors are gonna look like for the video, the location, which is very important, So what we'll do is, we'll location scout after the artist approves, the locations. We'll go check that out, and we also, send reference music videos like this is the vibe we're trying to go with and stuff like that, So, and then after that, I build a shot list. What I'll do is I'll download a whole bunch of music videos and then just screenshot each one. So, like, my shot list is super long. I probably have, like, over 60, 70 different shots, which is perfect because, when you go into post, at least you have extra shots and not, like,
yeah,
10,
it's so better to overshoot than to not have enough.
Way better. So, going back to the issue we had, so originally one of the shots we were supposed to shoot was at the beach.
Okay.
Right? And we get to the beach, and this is also during the, I've been to this beach many times. It's low key. And we get there, and it's just crowded as hell.
Oh, wow.
And so I go down to the beach, and, hoping it was going to be dead. But, it was like, oh, my God, like, what are we going to do? We got to figure this shit out because we only have this day to shoot it.
Right.
Just like you bring up, it's hard to bring back people and stuff like that. So we got to kill this shit out the same day. So, we came together and literally just figured it out in, like, I don't know what, 20 minutes or something. 20 minutes. We're like, okay, let's just shoot there. The vibe of the beginning of the video is almost the same as the ending. The ending was supposed to be the beach.
Okay.
But it was like, okay, we have no choice right now. We're losing time. We're losing sun. We just got to kill this shit. So we go check the location. Once we get there, we're like, me and John are like, oh no, this looks too similar. It's like, how are we gonna use this? So we kind of scope it out for maybe like 45 minutes, just like, okay, how about we shoot here and, just do a couple shots here. So, I mean, even though we had our shot list, we had to go off of it just because the fact of what happened that day. We're like prepared the whole day, but it was like, you just never know.
Now, sometimes you have to call an audible because you don't know what's going to happen, especially when you're doing guerrilla filmmaking and it's like, you don't have permits or releases and things like that. So you have to be very flexible and be able to know how to switch to plan B in the middle of the shoot and still be able to be effective with what you're trying to capture.
Exactly. And I think that is important. It's like sometimes it is good to have a plan B. And on that shoot, we didn't have a plan B. So going back to, you know, that issue, now I think it's important that we plan out a plan B.
Right.
You know, just in case, as a backup.
Right. And it's also a learning process. As you do more videos,
Yeah.
you start finding alternatives in case things happen. Like, let's go to this because we did that last time and it worked. So, you know.
Also, like working with people who don't have a big budget.
Right.
So we have to kind of cater to them. And we're like, okay, low budget, you know, we could do this, we could do that. We over plan, but of course, sometimes things don't always happen according to plan. So we have to kind of be flexible and try to come up with the best outcome.
Yeah.
So that's the thing too.
Hey, you know, we're always here for you though.
Yeah.
No doubt. That's what that's what attracted me to even come and do the podcast, because I saw some of your video work.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good. I thought you guys were really professional, and really, I could tell you really take it very seriously.
Yeah.
It wasn't just showing up with a camera and just shooting something.
Yeah, definitely
it was,
not.
You know.
Thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you.
It means a lot. Yeah,
sure.
So,
no, and you know, like I said, that's definitely one thing. You know, moving down here, I feel like it's taught me is to be more professional.
Yeah,
you know, so you know, we'll talk.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely,
we'll get into it. But backtracking, you know, going back to the whole music thing. Who were your like biggest influences when you started getting into music?
Oh man, Rick Rubin was a huge influence of mine, because he was able to saw the stuff he's done with the Beastie Boys and Run DMC and things like that, and he was just always this guy that he was into all types of music, and he could put it into any space, like whether it was hip hop, whether it was rock, all of that. I was just really into him. I was into Quincy Jones, of course, and whatnot, and DJ Premier, Mantronics, all these different hip hop producers as well. So I was just the hip hop producer just started moving to the forefront. So Shaheed Muhammad, you know, people like that were just doing innovative stuff with sampling records and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's how those are the guys that influenced me and got me into record shopping and sampling and doing all these different things with production.
That's dope.
That's dope. Yeah.
After, you know, you went to school and all that, like, what was the point where you decided, you know, like, I want to take this music thing seriously?
Well, before I went to school, we put a record out. And then I went off to school, and when I had come back, they had started playing the record on the radio. We started doing shows as soon as I came back, and every weekend we were out of town doing shows. I was working like regular job at like Super 8. I was like the desk clerk. I worked at every fast food restaurant, and during the week, but on the weekends we would be out of town doing shows. And just the excitement of going out of town and doing a show and feeling the energy from the crowd and everything, it just made me want to do it every weekend. So at that point, we started traveling back and forth to New York. So we would have these jobs. When I worked at Super 8, I worked third shift. So I would only work like Monday through Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would be off, and I didn't have to be to work till 11 o'clock on Monday. So it basically gave you like 4 days to run to New York City, network, go to meetings, industry parties, studio sessions, all of this stuff. And that's how I ended up meeting Biggie. That's how I ended up working with P. Diddy, all these different people, because I was coming back and forth so much, and they were seeing me, and they were just giving me opportunities to do my music.
Yeah, that's dope. So, I mean, you mentioned, you know, you did connect with Diddy and all that, and, you know, you became part of the production team, the Hitman.
Yes.
So is that pretty much how that connected, or was there more, like, you know, was there more a process that you had to go to?
It was definitely a process. I started off, I met Vincent Herbert. Actually, I white labeled a record, put it out. It was playing on the radio. Vincent Herbert, who found Lady Gaga, just happened to be riding through North Carolina, and he heard the song on the radio. It was this rapper that I had produced by the name of Omniscience. And so he called the radio station. He spoke to the program director. I guess he knew him or something, and he asked who that was. And next thing you know, he came through Greensboro, scooped us up. I was probably at a very low point in my life because nothing was working out with the music thing. I think my power was turned off. My beard was out here. It was really rough. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he shows up. And we're in the studio, and the very next day I'm like in a 5-star hotel overlooking the Hudson River, going to meet Sylvia Rome the very next day. So that was the first time that I realized that with this music thing, it's so many ups and downs, but your life can change in an instant.
Yeah.
Right.
You're always one phone call, one email, one text message, one introduction away from everything just changing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that point, I was just always was trying to make sure that I was prepared. No matter what. So when I worked the third shift at Super 8, I would get off at 7 in the morning, sleep to 12, and then make beats all day until 11 o'clock. So by the end of the week, I had like 30, 40 different beats. And so when I met Vincent, I had a lot of music to play him. When I met P. Diddy, I had a lot of music to play him. And so I think they were impressed with the fact that my work ethic, and it was like, all of his music is good, and he has so much of it, so I know we can find a hit record in there.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that was the thing that really attracted them to me. So a friend of mine, Ramon Herbert, introduced me to Diddy. I played all my music for Diddy. Next thing I know, Diddy wanted me to be one of the Hitman producers, and he was going through his thing with the New York shooting and J-Lo at the time. So he wasn't as focused on the production team as he had been in the past. So my time there, I learned things from him, but his focus was more on what he was dealing with his legal issue than it was the production team.
Right.
So I ended up leaving. But once I left, I ended up producing Michael Jackson, Beyoncé, Will Smith, Lil' Kim, all these different people.
Legends.
But I learned work ethic from him. I learned how to really produce, because before, when I was producing, I would be doing the entire record.
Yeah.
But when I started working with the Hitman, I realized, like, it's a team. It's like a factory. So you may do the track. Mario Winans may come and add production to it. Somebody else may add something to it. So by the time the song is finished, 4 or 5 different producers had touched the track and added things to it.
Yeah.
And that's why they were having so much success with all the records
That's
they were putting
beautiful.
out, because it was like a team. And that's the first time I experienced that.
Yeah.
And so moving forward, when I was working with people, I was always working with a team of writers and producers and things like that, because it's all that brain power going into the track,
Exactly.
and it makes it interesting to work like that.
We interrupt this episode with a word from our sponsor. Are you a gamer and looking to amp up your gaming setup? Then we've got an amazing gaming brand for you. Tilted Nation strives to get their customers involved with their development process of new products in order to establish a personal connection, and not to mention truly optimized products for the gaming community. They want to go beyond developing amazing products and to lead the gaming community into a united community that works together. A community that pushes gaming essentials to unimaginable heights. They've hooked us up with amazing gear such as this gaming headset stand, mouse pads, and this awesome laptop RGB stand right below my laptop. And now they're hooking you guys up. Use the discount code Artistry Drop on their website, link below, and receive a 15% discount. Now back to the show.
Yeah, that makes sense, because even like with us, with working with artists for filmmaking and music videos, like sometimes we have an artist who doesn't have like any concept, like we spoke about before. So it's really just me and him bouncing ideas from the song that they made.
Right.
But of course, the outcome is only what we see, and a lot of times, some of the times, like the artist doesn't really enjoy what we came up with.
Right.
We're like, well, you didn't give us anything to work off of. But so moving forward, we've worked with artists, you know, who are really more established and have, you know, a foundation, and having that third person, you know, with that mindset and with that creativity bouncing off of our creativity, that makes a lot of sense. How, like, you know, you have so many different people, like you were saying, touching the project, bouncing off ideas, because everybody brings something different to the table.
Yeah, they do.
And then that melting pot creates like a legendary record or, you know, an iconic video. So yeah, I could definitely see that.
When you look at films that you see on TV, it's always, or in the theater, it's always a combination of the editor, the DP, the director, the writer, the actor. Everybody is bringing their magic to the table, and when you mix all that stuff together, you can only come out with something really good.
Exactly. You know, you mentioned Mario Winans. Was he part of the Hitman?
Yeah. At the time when we got there, Mario Winans, Puffy had pulled us in and basically was telling us that Mario Winans and myself were going to be the front men for the Hitman, and basically like bringing it back to prominence. And there was a big write-up in the Source magazine about it and everything. So it was a lot of pressure, but, you know, at that time, I was just so immersed in hip hop. It was a great time in New York City because Wu-Tang was blowing up. Jay-Z was blowing up. Rockefeller, Murder Inc. All these different camps were blowing up. So the pulse of the city was like just booming with hip hop everywhere. So it was a great time to be in New York. It was a great time to be doing that type of music, and it hasn't been the same since.
Yeah.
So is this like before Mario Winans became an artist himself?
No, this is after his artist. He
really?
He was an artist on Motown, and then he really got into his production. And I think he put that record out probably around the same time. But he was really more focused on his production more than anything, and he was producing everything over there. You know, so it was, and me and him connected. Really good person, really good vibe, and I just always knew that when I would give him the track, he would know exactly what right things to put on top of it to just make it even bigger than it was.
Yeah.
So
that's dope because you know, I grew up on Mario Winans as well, you know, and you know, during high school and you know, stuff like that. So that's really dope to know that he was actually, you know, you worked really close with him and you know, stuff like that. How long were you part of the Hitmen?
Probably about a year and a half. I tried to stall it out as long as I could. He was trying to get me to sign the contract, so I was just like, I just kept putting it off and kept just feeling it out. And during that time, I produced records for Biggie, Nas, Casey, and JoJo. Just doing a lot of production, but I was just really trying to stall and see how committed he was. Yeah, you know, and unfortunately, he was going through some things, so the focus that he had on it previously that I thought was going to help me get to the next level wasn't really there. But you know, like I said, after that I went on to do so many other artists, produce so many other artists. But just getting that time there and really learning how to really produce records. Vincent showed me how to produce records. And Puffy really showed me how to fine tune it so that I could be consistent with it and have a formula with making these records. So I really learned from two of the greatest how to really produce records, as well as Omar Rambert, who is Willow and Jaden Smith's executive producer, and he conceptualizes a lot of their music, and I learned so much from him as well. So I was just very fortunate to have three mentors in my life that were doing things at a very high level, very creative, unique people, and they've always been around for me through my whole career.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, honestly, hearing that. That's dope. When it comes to producing for an artist, are you usually in the studio with an artist, or because you know, here in LA, sometimes like, you know, producers will just send you the beat and you record it yourself, or you know, sometimes the producer will work in the studio with the artist. Like, how does it usually work for you?
For me, it's usually just sending the track, and they do something to the track, and I either come in and mix it, or I'm a part of it after it's already been laid down. Beyonce was probably the only one that was like in the studio with the with Michael Jackson. I was there when he was laying his vocals down, but with Beyonce, she was the one that was like really, really in tune with every aspect of the record, from the mix, the arrangement, everything. Very meticulous in the whole process, which I had never experienced that before, because most artists, after they record it, they just pass it on to the engineer. She was the one that was in there for the mix, making sure everything was exactly how she wanted it. And I had never really experienced that before with the artist. It was very meticulous about how the mix was turning out, what parts they were using, how the EQ was, all these different things. And so that just showed me that as an artist, it's your record, it's you being put out there, so you have to be involved in every aspect of it. You know, so I learned that from her, and that's what really helped me get into the artist mode, is just learning the process of all these different artists and how they make their music and put their music out. So that's something that I learned. Work ethic, I learned being a part of everything from recording to mixing to mastering, all those different things, and it just made me a better artist.
Yeah, no, that's dope. So, of course, you mentioned, you know, Michael Jackson, and a lot of the people on the podcast probably already knows this, but I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. He's like one of the guys I've always looked up to, you know, growing up. So how did that actually happen? You know, how did you, Heaven Can Wait, you know, how did you make that happen?
Well, I worked with a couple of producers, Terrence Thompson and Nate Smith, and when I got it, we had the track, and I'm listening to the track, and I'm like, this sounds like it could be a Michael Jackson type record. So at the time, I went and got with Teron Beale, and amazing songwriter, Ritza Laws, they wrote the track because I knew Teron was I worked with him before on a couple of different artists, and I knew he was like a huge Michael Jackson fan, and I knew he really understood Michael Jackson and his arrangements and the intricacies of what the Michael Jackson sound was. So I went to him. He wrote the song. When I got the song back, I was like, "Oh, this is Michael Jackson." It's like it reminded me of "Lady in My Life" from the Off the Wall album, and so I was like, took the record. At the time, of course, you don't think that you can get to Michael Jackson. He's like the biggest artist on the planet. So I took it to, I wanted to try to get it on Janet because I knew somebody at Virgin at the time. And I was like, well, it could be a Janet record. When I played it for them, they were like, she's not going to do this record. Nobody's going to do this record because it's about death and nobody's going to do this record. So we ended up selling the record to Babyface's brother, Kavon Edmonds. And, you know, I knew he wasn't the right person for the record. But the check was so big, we took it, right? And so when we're in the studio working with him, he's like, yo, you guys are trying to make me sound like Michael Jackson. I'm not Michael Jackson. You should just give the record to Michael Jackson. And then all of a sudden the light bulb went off when he said that. And I was like, yo, he's right. So I started playing 6 Degrees of Separation. And I was like, who do I know that knows this person, that knows that person, that knows, you know, Michael Jackson? So at the time, Teddy Riley was working on Michael Jackson. And it just so happened Kenny Quiller is a guy that I knew from North Carolina that happened to be Teddy Riley's assistant. So I sent the record to him. He gave it to Teddy, and 2 weeks later, Michael Jackson is like standing in my face, and we're talking about the record.
That's crazy.
And so it just showed me, I learned 2 things from that experience. One, don't ever do anything for the check, because once you take the check, you actually got to do the work. And so if the artist and you are not on the same page, or you're not vibing with the artist, or you don't even think the artist can carry the record, don't give your best music to somebody that you don't think can carry the record just for the check. Right. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is I realized with 6 Degrees of Separation, we're all connected. We all know somebody that knows somebody in this industry. It feels like a big industry, but it's very small. We all know somebody that knows somebody, so you can get to anybody. So I'm like, if I can get to Michael Jackson, that gave me the confidence that I can get to anybody out here because I know somebody is connected to somebody. And so that's how we ended up getting the record to Michael Jackson, and it was just it was a great experience, man.
That's crazy to hear that. Were you like nervous at all to be around the King of Pop?
Well, as he's talking to me. Because Michael Jackson, when he talks to you, he looks you like dead in the eye when he's talking to you. So as he's talking, I'm taking it all in, and then all of a sudden, he starts sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher. I can't hear anything he's saying, and I just bust out in this big Kool-Aid smile, and I know he's looking at me like, why is this guy smiling?
What's wrong with this guy?
It just dawned on me, like right in the middle of the conversation, is like, I'm talking to Michael Jackson right now, and this is not just, hey, how you doing, and shake your hand. He's like, full conversation about the song, about the music, and it's just so crazy that I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina, and Michael Jackson, who I idolized and watched his whole career, is standing in my face having a conversation about music that I'm working on. So it's just it was just a very surreal moment, and it just blew me away, man.
How was he like in person? You know, aside from working, was he like a really cool guy? Because
very, 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 very sincere.
Very
sincere. You can hear it in his conversation. Very humble, very down to earth. Just really, really, just blew me away how sincere he was. That you could feel the honesty in his conversation and when he talked to you. So it was just, I felt like he was not of this earth. He gave you that vibe when you were in the room, when there was some aura in the room going on when you were working with him.
No, that's so dope hearing, like, because like I said, you know, like I always talk about MJ, and you know, I'm one of the biggest MJ fans, and you know, talking to you, you actually knew him, you worked with him. It's crazy to hear that story.
Man.
You know, so
it blows me away sometimes when I think about it. I don't really know anybody from North Carolina that really knows him or actually like interacted with him. So sometimes I have to pinch myself and I think about it. I'm like, yo, you're probably the only guy in Greensboro who's ever met Michael Jackson and had a real conversation with him.
not only Greensboro, but like in the world,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
nation.
Yeah.
I bet that brought a lot of inspiration for you, like afterwards.
Oh yeah. At that point, I mean, he's the biggest of all time. It was just really, I rarely, when we do these interviews, is the only time I really get a chance to think about what I've done, because in this business, you're just always moving and on to the next thing. So this is like the first time, or in a long time, that I really like get a chance to really think about those things. And I was just like, wow, in that time span, you work with Michael Jackson, you work with Biggie, you work with Beyonce, you work with Will Smith, like Diddy, all these icons, Mace, all these icons in popular music. And to have that on your resume and that experience is just like, it blows me away sometimes. Like, did I really do that? So it's crazy.
No, appreciate you telling us that story, because, you know, like I said, just hearing it from a person that actually worked with MJ and being one of the biggest MJ fans, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, that is.
I saw one of your posts, you know, you mentioned you worked with Biggie for days in the studios. Like, how was that experience working with a legend like that?
Oh, man. Like, at that time, Biggie was so focused. It was when he was building Junior Mafia and Little Kim, aside from his own artist career. And so I learned that he was more than just a rapper. He had so much vision for his artists. He could see something in an artist and know where to take them. A lot of times, Little Kim and some of those artists that he was working with didn't understand where he was going, and he was just like, just trust me, just do it. And the record ended up being, you know, exactly what he saw. So he knew, I think he learned some things from Diddy on how to make records in terms of using popular loops, samples, knowing how to put certain chants and hooks in songs. And so I learned that from him, as well as arrangement and how to do that. And so just really seeing that side of him, he was a really, really good executive, and probably would have been really, really huge as an executive had he stayed with us longer, because he was he just had a lot of vision, man, a lot of vision, and very focused. You know.
Yeah, that's dope to hear that. You know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but online I was reading, you actually produced the beat for "Killing Me Softly" by the Fugees?
Yes. Oh, my God.
That's crazy.
So at the time, they were working on their album in New Jersey. And I had just moved to New Jersey. We had just got to deal with Electric Records. And I met them in Newark. And I was going to the studio every day, programming beats for them. And at the time, a guy told me that there was my executive producer at that time, told me that if they don't pay you, don't go back over there.
Yeah.
And so, because I had done a couple of sessions over there, laid a bunch of tracks down, and they hadn't got their budget yet. And so I left, and I never went back. And then the next thing you know, I hear the track that I programmed, the drums and everything, on "Killing Me Softly" come out on the radio. And it just dawned on me that I was like, yo, I didn't ever go back and get, you know, the music that I had laid down or even finished it.
Yeah.
And it came out. And it was so crazy. I learned from that moment is like, if you commit to a project, like no matter what, stay committed to finishing it and handle your business and make sure it's done. And, you know, that record went on to sell 20 million records. So it's like when I'm in a dentist office or the grocery store and it comes on, it like haunts me. That I did that record. And it's like, I saw Wyclef after that. I saw Proswell after that, and it's like, you know, they just they have this aura about them where it's like they don't even act like it happened or whatever like that. And like have tried to sign me to work with them again, and I'm like,
to make up for it, type of thing.
I don't even think they even realize that. You know, I just think I don't think that I know. You know what I'm saying? But I have the actual disc that I programmed the song and everything like that. But at the end of the day, those are just growing pains and things that you experience in the music business. As you're coming up, you're gonna have horror stories like that of something that you were a part of that you didn't get credit for, or things like that, or you didn't get paid for and things. So I'm just happy that I'm still alive. I'm still very focused on music. People still take my calls. I'm still able to produce music and have a passion for music, because I've seen so many people that are crazy talented in this business get burnt out and lose their passion for music. So I'm just happy that I wake up every day with a song, an idea, a concept in my head musically, and I'm able to execute it and grow as a producer, because I see a lot of producers that are making the same music they were making 10, 15 years ago. They make it exactly the same.
Yeah.
Whereas I started off as a hip hop producer, then went into R&B. Now I'm doing pop and rock and things like that. So just always growing as a producer and learning, altering my sound. My sound is constantly growing, and I admire producers that can do that.
Yeah, that's dope. Having that situation happen to you, did that happen to you like often?
No. Well, that time, and then I did a record for Aaliyah on the 1 in a Million album that I didn't get credited for as well. And that was just like a common practice during that time, that a lot of producers were getting jerked like that, and not. But it just showed me to be on top of your business more, and stay committed to the project and making sure that you get what you're supposed to get.
Yeah.
Right.
Did Wyclef know that you actually produced it as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there.
Yeah. And what it was is that, and when you hear the song, I mean, Killing Me Softly is just my beat, and Wyclef's playing bass on it, and she's singing on top of it. And it was one of the first tracks that I laid down when I went to their studio and whatnot. So, you know, but they ended up getting sued by Roberta Flack for it, so it was just a big mess. And so at the end of the day, I'm still here, you know, so it's all good. They know it. I know it. You know, and the record plays on forever. And at the end of the day, we're only vessels. We're here to take the music and put it out there and make people feel something from the music. So whether or not I got paid for it or not, or got the credit for it or not, it still did what it was supposed to do in touching people and making people feel something every time they hear that record.
Man,
you know?
that's such a great way to look at it as well. And you could tell, you know, you're definitely more mature, you know, looking back at it and, you know, looking at the bigger picture rather than, oh, they didn't give me credit for it. They didn't give me the check. You know, a lot of people, especially now in this generation, be like, no, I'm not working with them. You know, every time I see them, you know, it's going to be a conflict type of thing.
It's like I said, at the end of the day, we're all supposed to be here to create things to make people feel something, to make their life better. And that's what you guys do when you shoot your visuals. That's what I do when I create music, is just, you know, try to you know, put my stamp on the world and make people feel something. You know,
you know,
and that's very powerful.
No, like, it
is. It's a huge obligation, and it's very powerful when you think about it, that something can come from your mind and you can create it and make people feel something and get inspired, whether it's seeing your video and saying, I want to do something like that.
Exactly. And I, you know, I love Killing Me Softly. So whenever I hear that song, I'm gonna think of you now.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So going back to the people you've worked with, you worked with Grammy-nominated albums like Anthony Hamilton's "Back to Love" and also Beyonce's "Dangerously in Love," which actually did receive a Grammy. How was that process like compared to like working with other artists who didn't get that Grammy nominated position?
It was, well, I mean, you know, when you go in there to make it, you never know that that's what's going to happen. But if you are working with big artists, you know the label's agenda is to produce those, try to push those artists to win the Grammy. And so, like, when we won the Beyonce one, it didn't even really dawn on me that that moment was that big until it actually happened. And I'm sitting at home watching, and she's doing the Grammy acceptance speech, and she mentions my name.
This was my first record as a solo artist, and I want to thank everyone involved with making this record: Scott Storch, Rich Harrison, Jay-Z, Angela Beyoncé, Fanatic.
And it's like, that album had Scott Storch and all these big producers on it, and so for her to even mention my name in that conversation as one of the standout producers on the album, it meant a lot to me, meaning that I know that record that I produced on her had a huge impact on her and her career. It was one of the first records I did with her where she was talking about an intimate situation versus just a love song. And it was her coming out album as a solo artist. So it made a statement for her in that record. And I know a lot of people love that record. I hear, you can go on YouTube and I see so many people have tried to cover the record, Speechless. It's constantly, if I'll post it, so many people will tell you, that was my favorite song off of that album. So once again, it's all about making that music that will touch people for years and years. Crush on You is like that. I still get that to this day. So I'm just happy that I was able to create some music that still touches people years and years after I already created it. But just to hear her at the Grammys. Say That.
Exactly.
And I think that year Prince performed with her. She told me in rehearsals, Prince learned my song, Speechless, and played it for her in rehearsals. He had taught it to his whole band and played it in rehearsals. Crazy. So it's like Prince loves your record enough to learn it and play it. And so, you know, that was just like a big thing where it's Beyonce, it's Prince. They love the record. Yeah. So it was a great moment for me at that time.
Have you ever like worked with Prince?
No. I wish. I wish. And I know so many people that know him.
Yeah, you were around that.
That are around there. I've met him multiple times. But the greatest compliment was my lawyer, Londell McMillan, told me that when Speechless came out, Prince told him that was his favorite record at that time. He told Beyonce the same thing. So just the fact that I'm not directly connected to him and he hears my song and it touches him, it means something to me, you know, and I wish he was still here so I could work with him, because I think we would make a great combination in the studio.
Yeah, that's dope. And I've recently, you know, you've been posting a lot of Prince, so I mean that's why I also assume, you know, you're a big fan of Prince as well.
Definitely. He's the ultimate pop star to me. Like when he came out, his fashion, his going against the grain, doing something different, his sexuality, all these different things that he was doing was just so groundbreaking, very daring, and his ability to mix a fusion of all these different genres in his music and just make it accessible to everybody. Yeah. He's the ultimate artist that I really study between him and Elvis, Jimi Hendrix, Andre 3000, Pharrell, all these different artists, Kanye West more than anybody. Just very, I know that these artists were very astute in terms of studying great artists that came before them and putting it into their music and their whole artistry. Yeah. Because to me, an artist is more than just the music. It's bringing it all together. And those that can bring it all together, where you have the image, you have the fashion, you have the message, all these different things that are attached to you as an artist are what makes you the biggest artist in the world, because everybody is tuned in to what you're doing, no matter what it is. Everybody's hanging on your every word. Every time Kanye West comes out with something, it's always a big event. And I come from that era where Michael Jackson's video came on at 8 o'clock prime time, and everything stopped, and they showed "Remember the Time."
I remember that too.
So it's always been a big event for those artists, and everything stops, and every time they reinvent themselves over and over again. And so I like those type of artists, and I think Kanye is somebody that's been doing that for a while now, and that's what I love about him.
That's dope. That's dope. You know, you don't have to answer this, but I just got to know, because you've worked with MJ as well. Prince or MJ? Because you know there's that battle. There's that battle between them both. You know.
I mean, I grew up on Michael Jackson, but Prince to me was the ultimate, because he wrote, he produced, he played so many instruments. At the time when Purple Rain came out, he did like 5 different albums at the same time, between Sheila E., The Time, Apollonia 6, and his album. So to write and produce 4 and 5 albums at a time, that's like almost 30 songs. Yeah, that's true. And he had hit records on those albums. So just his ability to write, produce, sing, perform, fashion, all these different things, he encompassed all of that. But you know, Michael Jackson, I can always go down the wormhole on Instagram and see so many moments in his life that he was just great for a very long time, and just grew as an artist, and just to see him evolve and everything, he's special to me as well.
I only ask because, you know, like I know there is beef between them two. You know, I've watched tons of videos on YouTube where you know there is beef between Prince and then MJ, so it's like you worked with MJ, you're a fan of Prince, so I was like, I just had to ask.
They had their moments, but I even learned from people that knew him, as well as reading stuff, that at one point they were very, very close. They were they were friends and whatnot. But I think, you know, as they got bigger, you know, the competition just got out of hand, and they became enemies at some point. But Lenny Kravitz tells a story that much later, where he was in the studio with both of them, just hanging out, and everybody was cool, and it was just those three, and they're just talking music and life and hanging out together. So they were closer than most of us even really know.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so going back to the Grammy-nominated albums, compared to all the legends you have worked with, was there something different with producing those Grammy nominated albums compared to the people you work with?
Not really. Not really, because it was just at the moment, like I said, you didn't really know that they were going to get nominated for Grammys or win or anything like that. But I just knew that they were great artists. All those artists were great and had something unique and special about them. So I was just fortunate enough to work with very, very talented, iconic artists. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's dope. Yeah. So, looking back at all the legends, you have worked with, is there anyone specific that you loved working with and you would never forget that experience?
Probably it'd be a close tie between Michael Jackson and Beyonce. Probably leaning more to Beyonce because I spent a lot of time in the studio with her. I had a lot of conversation with her. I learned a lot about her creative process. I learned that she was more than just a singer, and so my experiences working with her were probably something I'll remember forever in terms of working with great artists, and just to see her in her moment as she's ascending from the group and becoming this big solo artist.
Yeah.
That was it was just great to see that at that time and be a part of that.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's dope. Yeah, since you've worked with a lot of big artists, like what makes a timeless track? I know you mentioned that it gets passed off to many engineers, producers. Is there like a formula or like a creative process, or is it more of like a feeling and like a chemistry?
It's more of a feeling. I always try. I don't really produce records based upon the trends and what's going on. I always try to fuse something from the past with something that's going on now. As I'm working on my album, the Billie Lennox album, I try to infuse a lot of that. So I infuse a lot of what's going on hip-hop wise right now with classic elements like guitars and rock guitars and things like that. So just fusing those two things together is how you make a classic record. You're always taking something from the past with something new. And it's very difficult to do that.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Very difficult. And if you don't really understand that process, your music can sound dated or it can just sound very trendy with what everybody else is doing now. And you can't really tell the difference between your track and somebody else's track. But you have to study. So just as much as I listen to old music, every Friday I'm on Spotify listening to what just came out, what they're doing, what the production techniques are, what the mixing techniques are, and just constantly trying to fuse those two things together of something that has classic elements to it. Because there's certain elements in a song that will always remain classic, whether it's those 4 Beatles chords, pop chords, or whether it's distortion guitars on the choruses or whatever it is. It's always something that is timeless, and that as well as what's going on right now. So just being able to fuse those two things together allow me to possibly get in that space of making something classic.
Yeah,
that's dope. And I think a lot of this generation has a hard time doing that because I've seen a lot of people, especially new music now, they all sample because they can't make their own type. So it brings that nostalgia with the new so I could definitely see where you're coming from. Speaking about new artists, you mentioned Kanye. Is there any new artists, iconic artists of this generation have you thought about producing for?
Definitely want to work with Drake, definitely want to work with Kanye, definitely want to work with Pusha T, definitely want to work with Lucky Day. It's a whole lot of new artists that Nick Hakim. There's a whole lot of new artists out there that I think are really dope that I would like to collaborate with, hip hop wise as well as R&B, but also like Post Malone is somebody that I would want to work with also too. Just artists that I feel, Bruno Mars of course.
That would be dope.
Yeah, just artists that I see are really serious about being here for a minute and constantly growing as an artist. And when I look at those artists like a Post Malone or a Bruno Mars, I can see the elevation every time that they come out and they're constantly reinventing themselves. And they're going to be here for a while because they're doing something different every time that they step on the scene.
We interrupt this episode with a word from our sponsor. Are you looking for a way to energize for the day? We got a product that will do just that.
Introducing Gamer Subs. Gamer Subs is a keto-friendly, zero-calorie, zero-sugar-based energy drink that introduces nootropics to sharpen focus and increase reaction time.
Gamer Subs is also organic caffeine-based that will maximize energy and endurance. To make it easier, each scoop used is 100 milligrams so you don't go over your daily limit.
Each tub of Gamer Subs contains 100 servings. Gamer Subs also provides caffeine-free tubs for those that just want their daily vitamin dose without the need for caffeine.
Not only do they have energy drinks, they also have dope merch, such as these waifu cups, t-shirts, and hoodies, and much more.
Are you ready to energize with Gamer Subs?
Use our code Artistry Drop on their website and receive a 10% off discount.
Hey, now back to the show.
Yeah, and they changed the game of the scene for sure. And they take their time too. You know, it's not just like recycled and they release it twice a year type of thing like most of these new artists of this generation do. So bringing it on to my next question, so you've made hit records before, like social media became really popular. We now live in a world where social media has glorified, you know, followers, likes, and views. How do you think social media has influenced like this generation of music?
Oh man, everything. It's a big part of it. Everything that we're doing now, you have to include social media and how you're marketing it, how you're presenting yourself. It keeps people interested in you in between albums or in between putting out content, and it's a challenge. I myself don't try to give too much away through social media, but you still have to constantly post content on it to make sure that people are aware and you're building your tribe as you through social media. So it's important. It's very important, and it has changed the game a lot. I just don't like the numbers game where you know, artists are deemed dope or not based upon how many followers or how many likes they have and things like that. Because some artists are just better in the creative space of creating music and content versus marketing themselves on and whatnot. But you know, it's there's room for all of it. You know.
So, you know, we moved to LA, you know, to pursue and take things seriously. People move to LA and New York to pursue music, some hopes of fame and fortune all the time.
Right.
Since you've come from both sides of succeeding in those cities, but also going back to your hometown, do you believe people should move here or New York in order to be successful in their craft?
I definitely think you should be here. Just being here, you constantly are running into people. There's a certain level that people are on out here because they are getting situations, they are getting opportunity out here. So you find a lot of people that are on your level that are working just as hard as you. Whereas in a small town, they don't necessarily know, and they're usually following what's out there. Whereas if you're here, you're seeing artists at the highest level do things, whether you're going to a club and experiencing it or whether you're meeting with them and talking with them and finding out what they're doing. So I just think it makes you take your thing to a whole nother level when you get here versus what you were doing before at home. And you have to. And this is your competition. These are the people that are doing it. So you want to get here and figure out, can I compete at that same level out here? Versus, because you can always be a big fish in a small pond at home. But when you're out here competing against the best artists, the best directors, the best producers, all this stuff here in LA, now you know that you can compete with anybody out here and you have something to offer.
Because we've definitely seen a big change. We've only been here for like almost three years now. So like the level of artistry and the artists that we work with and the professionalism has definitely grown from what we're trying to fish for, like in our small city in Seattle. Of course, I think Seattle's, you know, on the come up with their artists as well as, you know, Atlanta, Chicago, you know, but really being here and seeing that level and that shift and change has really elevated our craft as well. So we definitely see a change.
And when you go back home, you can notice it. It's like night and day when you go back home, because I've done that. Like during the pandemic, I moved back home, and then I was seeing the level of artists there versus the level of artists in New York and LA, and it's like night and day.
Yeah.
So you know, and I couldn't survive. I went home for like 2 years, and I had to come back. And the second I got here, like immediately everything started happening. Every single day something was happening, and it just made me realize. But I did need that reset because I got burnt out here. LA will burn you out.
It will.
If you do not leave and come back. Like, you know, if you're not constantly every couple of months leaving LA and going spending time somewhere else and then coming back, it will burn you out. It will. You know, out here.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that because I brought this up, you know, with our previous guests is last year, I went through a burnout, a creative burnout, and you know it was because you know I was shooting so many photos, we were shooting videos and all that, and you know, and I stayed here still, you know, because I usually don't go back home until like the holidays and stuff. But yeah, during that time, it was really bad, and you know, I took off 3 to 4 months from not creating anything. Right. And, you know, it got to the point where I was like, damn, I miss this shit.
Right,
you know? So, and then I'm like, okay, let's go again, you know? But yeah, definitely, you know, like I said, you know, this place is grind city. It's like nonstop work and it will make you tired. And so it definitely is good to get away from LA at certain points or just, you know, take that break for a while. You know, if you don't feel like, you know, getting out of LA, just take a break. You know, that 4-month break for me was really good.
Sometimes you gotta go back and reset, and you'll definitely come out better once you return. The pandemic is what got me. Just going home and spending time with my family. There, my mom taking care of her. And my dad, and just being out there. You know, I started a nonprofit while I was out there called the Culture Pushers, and I got back into understanding purpose. And everything that I had been through was a testimony so that I had something to share with other artists that were trying to come up. So I had some time there. And the thing about it is, like you were saying about the pandemic, a lot of people really weren't paying attention and were just so anxious for it to be over and to get back out of there instead of understanding like this is a moment where everything stops and you can really focus on something else during that time. And that's how I ended. I wrote like 14 songs. I found myself as an artist. I wouldn't have been able to do that with the distractions of everything going on. But the pandemic let me sit still where all I was doing was sleeping, waking up, recording, sleeping, waking up, recording every single day. And that's when you get into that repetition space. And that's what that was one thing also I learned from Diddy is just like, if you're doing it every single day, you can't help but get better at it because it's so much repetition going on. You start to master your craft. And that's how I found myself as an artist. And before that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I was in the service space by doing this nonprofit and mentoring people and things like that. But my joy was always in making music. But I couldn't find any artists that inspired me that I wanted to produce. And I always wanted to be an artist. And that's how I found it during the pandemic, is just sitting still and just working on my craft every day and developing myself as an artist.
Now, no, going into that actually, you are an artist and, you know, you go by the name of Billie Lennox now. Like, so is that how you pretty much found yourself as an artist with just during the pandemic?
Every single day writing. It started off with one song and then trying to find another one that was in the same direction and just trial and error, writing every single day, recording every single day. And, you know, weeks would go by and you look up and you got 14 songs and you found the vibe. I was working with Andre Phoenix. He was helping me develop the sound, and we're doing Zoom calls, production-wise. He's sending tracks or sounds back and forth to each other, and we created the sound. And the thing about it is that I just found myself, and I would have never done that without it. And that's how Billie Lennox was born. Billie Lennox is a rock band that I created, and we're doing like pop rock. And for artists of color, that doesn't really exist, you know. True. And so for me, it's so important that I think that project came together for a specific reason, because there aren't really any artists of color doing music in the rock space. Most artists of color are limited to hip hop and R&B, and rock and roll is something that, you know, people of color created. We created that, but lately we have gotten moved out of that genre and aren't allowed to express ourselves in that space. And when I was growing up seeing Prince perform, and Lenny Kravitz perform, and Terrence Trent D'Arby, and all these black artists doing rock and roll gave me the vision that I could actually do that type of music. Right. But now we're in a space that we don't see that, so artists don't feel like they have an opportunity to express themselves doing rock and roll. Everybody is just doing hip hop and R&B, which is why that genre is over. It's saturated. It's oversaturated, and they're not. And so I just want to inspire people that you should be able to express yourself in any genre. And every time we do it, we blow up. When you look at Hendrix, when you look at Prince, when you look at Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Lenny Kravitz, Andre 3000, Pharrell, all these different people that when they did rock and roll, the shit just blew up. So I just feel like we should have more of an opportunity to create music in the rock space, and that's I'm on a mission to do that. And I think that everything has come together because I'm supposed to be here to do that type of music and show people you can make any type of music that you want to make, and you should just be able to express yourself freely, no matter what the genre is.
No, that's dope. How did you actually come up with the name Billie Lennox? Was that, since you mentioned it's a band, was that did you guys come together with that?
No, it's an alter ego. I am Billie Lennox, and it's an alter ego of just expressing yourself in a different space, which is rock music, which is something that I've always loved. And the thing about it is, so the Beatles had this. Paul McCartney did this publicity stunt back in the day where he faked his death, and the guy,
I heard about that.
So the guy that stood in for Paul McCartney was named Billy Shears, and so I always loved the Beatles, and I always was a big fan of how they got that publicity stunt off. So I took the Billy from there, and the Lennox comes from Malcolm X Boulevard and Lenox Avenue. And I was just really inspired by Malcolm X's journey and his awareness and the things that he did while he was here. So I took the Billy and the Lennox and I put it together, and I'm Billie Lennox.
That's dope. It's cool seeing how that actually comes together. You took pieces. Because some people will literally just come up with something. It's like I mean, when we came up with Artistry Drop, we went through a few trials of like, how should we do this? Of course we knew we wanted to feature a lot of artists, and I'd say it's definitely hard coming up with the name, but the way you came about it, I think that's dope.
It should be definitely something that represents what you're about, and just Malcolm X's awareness of who he was, where the world was going, and also just understanding, though he was immersed in his blackness, he also was very worldly when he went to Mecca and saw people of all colors, praying and being celebrating their spirituality together. And that's what I'm all about as well, as everybody loving each other and experiencing music together. And that's why we do rock music, because I mix hip hop with it, I mix soul with it, I mix R&B with it, I mix rock with it. So it brings everybody in the room to experience that. So if you're into the beats, the hip hop is there. If you're into the rock guitars are there. So I'm all about creating universal music that brings everybody in the room, because once everybody gets in the room and all those organic interactions happen, that's when magic happens. So I just want to bring everybody in to celebrate it, man.
That's dope. And I've listened to the Billie Lennox songs as well, and they're dope. I really love the combo you're going with. So I'm definitely excited to see more on what you come out with.
I appreciate it.
And your concepts too, that like there's such like when we spoke earlier, there's such like movie like a lot of big also like really touching and sensitive scenes.
It's so important, because like I was telling you earlier, you got 30 seconds to get everybody's attention, and people may only see one video from you. So I learned that from Prince. I learned that from Michael Jackson, because they were huge during the video era of making statements, Madonna and things like that. So I feel like when you see a music video, that, like I said, that's your business card. So when I see a Kanye West video, like the first videos he was doing, I learned something about his fashion sense. I learned something about his sexuality. I learned something about his music. I learned something about his message and his perspective and things like that. So I feel like when you see a video, I should learn about 5 or 6 things about that artist.
Yeah.
And that 3-minute clip that makes me interested to find out more what he's about. So I always try to put some sort of messaging in my videos about things that are interesting to me, or things that I have a very passionate opinion about, or whatever. I try to make something provocative. I try to mix the fashion in there. I try to mix the sexuality in there. I try to mix all of these different things in there that make it interesting, that you want to see the next video, or you want to learn more about the artist. You got to take the viewer and the listener on a journey with the stuff that you're creating, whether it's musically or whether it's visually.
That's dope.
That's dope. You spoke a little bit about, you know, creating a universal like community. And back in 2019, you actually created an album called Artists United to End Poverty. What does that album mean to you, and how did that contribute to like your hometown?
Another Michael Jackson moment, because I was a big fan of We Are the World and what they were able to do. So when I went home during the pandemic, like I said, I got burnt out from LA, and I went home for 2 years. And when I was there, I had been coming back and forth home before, and I had seen some of the artists there, and they were just okay. I saw they had talent, but they were just okay. But now that we're in this independent space, I saw so many more artists that had laptops and were creating music on a regular basis and really finding themselves as an artist. So this time when I went home, I saw artists that were fully already developed, and they knew what they were doing, and they were very polished, and I saw a lot of talent out there. So I was just like, you know, the United Way approached me about doing a project, because when I went out there, I was doing concerts out there. We had benefit concerts for a tornado relief and all that, right? And when I was curating the line, when I got there, I would see hip hop would be over here, or singer songwriter would be over here, and I was just like, but when you go to Coachella, you see all that shit mixed in together, so you see everything. And once again, when everybody comes in the room, I might be here to see folk, but I might get turned on to something else because I'm in the room. So I started curating concerts out there where it was a diverse lineup: young, old, black, white, rock, pop, hip hop, singer songwriter, all of these different things. And so nobody was really doing that out there at that time. And so after that, I think the United Way saw one of my benefit concerts, and they approached me about doing a project to help them end homelessness, right? And so I was like, well, shit, I lived in New York and LA, and I seen homelessness at an all-time high, like you wouldn't even believe. So I was like, Greensboro is not very big. So I was like, I know we can conquer this here in Greensboro, at least put a dent in it. So immediately I started thinking We Are the World, and I was like, let me put 45 artists on this record from Greensboro, all the best artists in the town on this record. And when you do that, each artist is bringing their fan base to the record and getting turned on to somebody else. So just imagine how big the fan base can be on this project, because everybody is bringing their own people to the record. So it was 45 artists on it. I had spiritual leaders on there doing pieces behind music. I had political figures on there. I had some of the best artists of all genres on there. And we put the record out. Record was like $10 to buy the record. And I'm like, if you can donate $10 to end poverty out here, like we can kill this thing. You know. But you know, as we did the record, we promoted it everywhere. Everybody in town had to know about this record. You had to be living under a rock if you didn't know about it, because we promoted it on TV, commercials, everybody in the streets, everybody knew about it. But the record didn't do what it was supposed to do in terms of sales, and that's when I realized that like these people weren't as compelled to do something about poverty as I thought they were. Their commitment to it, because it's like, if it's not directly affecting you, you don't really pay attention to it. Not realizing that poverty affects all of us, you know, indirectly. And the thing about it is, it's like there were people out there that were impoverished that didn't even realize that they were. You know, when you start looking at their income and you start looking at the poverty line, a lot of people didn't even realize that. So they didn't have a real passion to do anything about poverty because it wasn't directly, in their minds, it wasn't directly affecting them.
Because that's something they grew up in. They've always lived in a small city.
Very generational. I saw a lot of generational poverty. I saw a lot of starving artists out there and things like that. So I don't think that they really got it and whatnot and understood it. Like, yo, imagine if everybody in the city just gave up $10 to end poverty and then got this piece of art that had 45 of the city's best artists on it, what that actually really means. And so they didn't get it. And then at that point, then that's when I realized there's something called a small town mentality that sometimes supersedes, you know, the concept and the ideas that you're trying to do to make your city better. And they may not get it now, but they may get it later. So even after leaving the city and moving back to LA, a lot of things that we were trying to implement as the culture pushers that were in the best interest of the artists, started seeing that happen when I just went back home. So a lot of the ideas that we were trying to get off for them, they didn't see it at the time, but now I see it. And you know, you can feel bitter about that because they didn't see it when you were trying to do it, but at the end of the day, it's all about making the place better for the next people. So whether you got the credit for it or not, this is another situation where your impact changed the city. It doesn't matter if you got the credit for it or you got paid for it. It was all about what your duty is to make that place a better place, however you can. So I found happiness in that I was able to do that. And so now, I think now the challenge is to come to LA and do it at a high level and just pull people from that city and show them how to continue to do it at a high level versus getting so close to it and fighting against, you know, bureaucracy with the politicians out there or people with small town mentality trying to get them to see something that they can't really see right now. So now I'm trying to do it from the outside in, you know?
And that's still dope. You know, I appreciate what you did, you know, so definitely looking to see what you do here then, you know, as moving forward. You've mentioned this a few times already, the Culture Pushers. What is it all about? It's a nonprofit charity?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit that we started when I went back home, and it was basically to help artists, underserved artists out there navigate through the music business through mentorship, through helping them partner with sponsors. They didn't really understand how to partner with sponsors out there, and just really making sure that they get the support that they need, because we all know so many artists and creatives that are really dope, but trying to navigate through the ups and downs of the business, they lose their passion for it. And we all know somebody that's dope that is not doing that. They're not making music, they're not creating, they're not doing any of that. And as a producer, I've worked with so many artists that have the natural gift. It is obvious they have the gift, but life just got too difficult for them trying to, because this business is rough. Very rough, very up and down. Financially, opportunity wise, and a lot of people get burnt out and quit. And so the Culture Pushers was there to try to help these artists figure it out, turn them on to connections, turn them on to sponsors, mentor them, anything that we can do to help them continue to express themselves through their music and their gift and whatnot. So we did all kinds of projects out there, from concerts to benefit concerts to studio sessions, campaigns with different sponsors out there. Art galleries. We did a art showing out there where we brought like 37 artists into one building so that people could experience their art. So just anything that we could do to help artists and creatives continue to do what they do without, you know, to get through those roadblocks that cause them to lose their passion for whatever it is that they're doing.
That is really cool. I really like that. And, you know, you know, for me, I definitely, you know, I do tutorials, you know, and stuff, and I really like helping, you know, the community and, you know, photography, videography, and that's why, you know, I create YouTube tutorials is to, you know, keep pushing keep people going and, you know, learning and, you know, going about it. So I definitely respect you and, you know.
It's an obligation, man. When you get the information, it's your obligation to pass it on to the next generation and make it easier for them to continue to follow their dreams as well. So, you know, when you go through situations like I did with the Fugees or any of these things that you go through, these ups and downs, I don't look at it as a bad thing, because there's a lesson that you can learn in that that you can share with somebody else that will help them in their journey. And there's, like I said, this is not an easy business, and you really need as much help and information and mentorship as possible.
Yeah, and you know, it's sad too, because you know, sometimes people don't want to pass on information. They just want to keep it to themselves because, you know, they're like, they already know they're successful, but they don't want to share their secrets. And, you know, like, you know, for me, you know, when I was coming up with photography, videography, filmmaking, all that, I was looking for tutorials, and, you know, I couldn't really find much. So that's why, you know, I kind of learned on my own. I went to film school. Then that's when I started putting out, you know, my own stuff. And, you know, it was crazy that, you know, I started building, you know, my YouTube subscribers. People were saying, you know, I appreciate you sharing, you know, your secrets.
It's so important. I learned how to edit on Final Cut Pro from YouTube videos.
Yeah, see?
When I'm mixing or recording, I learn things from YouTube videos. So it's so important to give that information out to somebody, because you never know how many people become so big from those videos, just giving them the information to keep learning.
And you know, those people are gonna thank you in the end. You know, they're gonna be like, hey, you know, I learned from this guy, this guy, and you know, at least you can, you know, yourself, you can be like, you know, I help these people, you know, come up and stuff. And you know, for me, I never think about the views, and you know, so of course views are nice, you know, but of course, in general, I just like helping people out. And you know, like, you know, I've told him to watch my tutorials if he needs help or something. I mean, you know, my girlfriend, you know, and stuff like that. So
for sure. Passing from free game, Back in high school, you know, it's talking about being a big fish in a small city. You know, I grew up in Renton, Washington, in Seattle. I was big in the dance community. I used to dance for over 10 years, and a lot of people like looked up to me, and at the time thought, you know, I made it up there with, you know, the dance community, competing at battles and whatnot. But coming from a small like recreational center, they started a nonprofit and open mics and stuff like that. I would, you know, teach free classes and stuff like that. So always like giving back, like you guys were saying, is definitely an important part. And a lot of people, you know, don't want to do it, and they're really selfish. And, you know, they don't want to give back to the community. So the fact that you went back and started the whole culture pushers and everything, like, definitely tells of like how you're willing to give back to the
dude, when you start waking up in a space of purpose every day, then you start realizing this thing is bigger than you, and we're all here to do something to help somebody, you know, and that's why I mean, you guys do this full time,
right?
You know, you've been blessed enough to do this full time, so you feel like you have an obligation to help somebody else.
Exactly.
And you know, that was the whole concept with, you know, our podcast is, you know, inspiring the next generation of people. And, you know, kind of going into that, you know, before we do end the podcast, what advice would you give to, you know, the next generation of like music producers or people becoming an artist themselves?
Just don't let anybody put an expiration date on your dreams, man, because like I said, everybody has a different journey, a different path. It's never over until you decide to quit, and most of the time, if you quit, you're starting back at zero again. So, so my thing is that, like, and I can look back on my career at so many different things that I started that were great ideas that I didn't finish, and then you see somebody else execute those same ideas later on. So my thing is, like, when I started this Billie Lennox project, I was just like, I'm never gonna quit. I'm never gonna stop. I'm gonna keep doing this every single day until I get to my destination, because all this shit really is a an endurance test. With this podcast, if you guys keep doing this podcast every week, or how often that you do it, eventually you're going to find your audience, you're going to build your audience, and you're going to get to where you want to go. But that's just the thing, is just telling everybody to, like, don't ever quit on your dream. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Don't let anybody put their expectations on you. Nobody knows what you can do better than yourself, because you've lived with yourself forever. So you know what your will is to continue and to keep going through it. And if you ever feel discouraged, just step back. Look at where you were 6 months ago. Look at who was in your network and in your circle. Look at what opportunities you had 6 months ago, and look at where you are now. And that should give you the validation that whatever it is that you're doing it right. The decisions you're making are right. And then that should give you the confidence to keep going and keep doing whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, that's dope. That's super inspirational. Yeah, it is. Sure. Are there any shout outs you want to give to our viewers or anybody out there?
Nah, just I appreciate the support of everybody on my journey of creating this music and everything that I'm doing. I just want people to follow me, get inspired, send me information that will inspire me. Follow me on Fanatic, aka Billie Lennox, on my Instagram page. Support my music when it comes out, my videos when they come out, and everybody just be daring to be authentic in whatever it is that you're doing, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
And we're gonna link all his social media, his YouTube, his Instagram, and all that. So go look in the description below. But again, thank you for coming on the show today. No doubt. Definitely, super good talk and inspirational, and loving to hear, about, working with MJ and stuff. I was looking forward to this. So, but appreciate it again. Everybody, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please give us comment down below, subscribe to the channel. It's the Artistry Drop. If you're not following us on Instagram, it's the Artistry Drop. If you guys listen to your podcasts anywhere, Spotify, Google, anywhere you find your podcast, it's going to be on there. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.